Hi, my name is Arisa, and I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Sega, which is a DeFi protocol that focuses on creating exotic options on smart contracts. Because of the technical issues, I'm going to go through my presentations pretty quickly, and we are not going to have Q&A in this stage, but if you do have any questions for me after this, I will be right outside this stage, so please come up and ask away. So today, I wanted to talk about DeFi derivatives. It is a very small market right now, especially after the FTX collapse. And to be honest, it is so small that a lot of VCs, a lot of people actually don't really think about this market right now. It's only $3 billion in size, but it has a huge potential. In traditional finance, derivatives is literally a $22 trillion market. And so by tapping into the potential for DeFi derivatives, we're literally able to create an entirely new capital market that I'm really excited about. And DeFi currently experiences a lot of issues, and I'm sure a lot of you here are familiar with them. The first is that there's a lot of forking, there's a lot of products that are just same across all boards. We talk about lending and borrowing, there's like 20 different products that addresses the same people and addresses the same problem. We see a lot of Ponzi-nomics, and we see that a lot of yields have just not been really attractive in DeFi anymore. And then there's also the lack of on-chain liquidity, which we see that a lot of market makers, the one who provides liquidity in the market, actually do not prefer to do things on-chain. And we also see that smart contracts have a lot of limitations right now. And then lastly, we see a lack of decentralization. So I think some of you know this meme where DeFi is supposed to be autonomous and completely decentralized, but when you actually look under the surface, so many DeFi protocols are centralized. And so this is the hypothesis that we have at Sega, which is that exotic options smart contracts solve these three existing DeFi issues: the issues of product innovation, on-chain liquidity, and decentralization. It's a pretty bold statement, so let's see how it actually works out. How does DeFi exotic derivatives solve these prime issues in DeFi? So first, sorry for this wall of text, but I think there's a lot of people here who probably are interested in exotic options, but have not actually looked into exactly how they work. And exotic options basically solve this first problem of product innovation and lack of high yields and lack of good yields because it allows for a more flexible view in the market that allows for a customized incentivization. An example of an exotic option is something that allows for a different payoff depending on what happens during the path of the trade rather than just at the maturity. In a normal option, the right but not an obligation to buy or sell an asset at a certain price at a certain time, you only look at the price at the very end in order to assess the value of your payoff. But a type of exotic options, for instance, would look at all of the values in the middle of the trade up until the expiry of the trade. And by doing so, you're actually able to create things like KPI-based payouts for team incentivization, or you can average out volatility and actually be able to have a view on an alternative coin, but not necessarily have to go through the ups and downs of its great volatility. Another thing is you can track the performance of more than just one index. And so an example of this is a basket option where you can put small capitalization tokens with blue chip tokens like BTC or ETH, and it could really create this package that also allows for a good yield, but not necessarily a very risky investor profile. And lastly, you can also have some type of exotic option where you can change the settlement between cash or physical delivery of the actual tokens. An example of this is dual currency swaps, where by actually putting this in, you can create a structure where people are able to receive appetizing assets even if the markets are not attractive. one of the user insights we hear from Sega users is that, for instance, they are not super keen on Doge or Shiba Inu coins, but during the bull market, they do want that upside. But if the market tanks, they do not want to be holding on to their Doge or Shiba. They actually want to be holding on to, say, ETH. And so this last exotic option actually allows you to hold on to ETH if the market goes down, but you can still capitalize on the upside of these more volatile assets. And so by implementing exotic options, you can create a more flexible view on the market and have a really high yield as a result, while also being able to manage your risks. And you can also use exotic options to create larger trade volumes across market. So exotic options help with the issue of the lack of on-chain liquidity. Exotics basically is the epitome of complex financial derivatives. And if you trade an exotic option, it requires you to hedge that position with vanilla options, perpetual futures, and also spot. And so if you drive more volume of exotic options, it actually exponentially drives the volume of every other asset class in derivatives underneath. And so you're able to increase the on-chain liquidity significantly through having exotics. And so more derivatives, more liquidity, more liquidity, more derivatives. It is a flywheel. And lastly, exotics on-chain allows for a trustless, permissionless operations. One of the most incredible things is that in a 27-day trade, you actually have to observe an exotic option, say, 27 times if it's like a daily option. And it actually is incredibly costly in traditional finance, where this average structure would require almost close to like 108,000 US dollars to manage that position. And this is just like a back of the envelope calculation, but it's so expensive. And by putting it into smart contracts, you're literally making that cost zero. And then even if you enter into smart contract insurance to try to make the technical risk much lower, you're still able to cut down your costs by over 50%, which is an incredibly interesting use case for institutional DeFi. And so there's so much different ways that exotic options can actually solve issues in DeFi. And today, Sega, I want to talk a little bit about Sega, which is the protocol that created the first exotic option smart contracts. So Sega's mission is to create safer yields in volatile market environments. And if you want to check us out, it's app.sega.fi. We recently launched on Ethereum and Arbitrum. And if you have any more questions, I'll be right outside the stage ready to answer them. Thank you very much.